Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Totalbiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Rigonauts? Alright, so this game actually came in second in the first Activision Independent Games contest. It was beaten by a game called Destroyed, which I haven't actually seen hide nor hair of yet. And Rigonauts was supposedly going to come out in May, if I recall correctly, for both PC and Android, and then a little bit later on the App Store, because as you're probably aware, Apple has a tendency of slowing things down in that regard. But it's nowhere to be seen on the App Store, and it's just appeared on Steam, which is very curious, I have to say. But we'll give it a try, see what it's all about. So, it's by a company called Engient, and if I recall correctly, it's just two guys behind this, so already art style-wise, it's quite impressive for just having two people behind it. And unfortunately, what's not impressive is the complete lack of options. As you can see, you've got either windowed, which is 1280 by 720, or full screen, which is whatever your screen happens to be. No volume sliders or anything like that. You don't really have to rebind the keys because it's entirely mouse-driven. As you can see there, I've done a few levels just to get through a tutorial. And if we were to look at what was going on there, we can go all the way back and just see how many levels there are. Go forward a little bit and, well, it doesn't tell you. But supposedly this game has about 30 to 40 levels in it. We're going to start on level 9 and show you what it's all about. So, this is a battle building game, I suppose. You have what's called the Rigo. And you have to create, using various parts, a battleship of sorts, which then fights the enemies on either side. In this case, this level actually has you fighting two at the same time. If you destroy the captain's little... I don't even know what you would call that, but if you hit and kill the captain, then you will destroy the ship entirely, or you could just systematically take the ship apart by targeting various points. So all of these parts on the ship are actually destructible. So you can target this, and then what will happen is that explodes, which means that the thing will collapse forward. Won't necessarily eliminate it, but it will make it a hell of a lot harder for it to do anything, so that might be worthwhile. You can take the wheels off, you can pretty much do all sorts of things, really, and you have to do so by designating weak points, so they will target that first and then that. You don't have direct control over the battle, which is probably the thing which is going to turn a lot of people off, honestly, and actually don't blame them that much. Alright, so let's build it, shall we? I've got access to a few materials. I have at the moment bone and wood. So you have resource points, and you have a limit. This little dial at the top will show you what your limit is. Once you get up to full, you can't add on any more of these bits. And bobs, well, bobs are weapons for whatever reason. It's a number to be unlocked at the moment. I have a machine gun, a cannon, and a flamethrower. You can attach up to 4 of these, depending on how many weapon hard spots you have. In this case, I've got 4 hard points, so I can add on 4 weapons. I guess later on in the game, you probably get access to maybe 5 or 6 total. So they've got to be attached to something. So let's go and have a look and see what it's made of. So I think I'm going to try and focus on this stone beam, because I would like to collapse it at the front. That seems like its big structural weakness. So a cannon. There we go, we can attach that. We can then rotate the entire thing around if we so desire via this little interface, which honestly looks like it's designed for phones, really. It doesn't really make a lot of sense that that interface is there for PC because, well, you really don't need it. I'll demonstrate what I mean. If we just get rid of that, drag that in here, and then if you hold down the right mouse button, you can just rotate it, which is exactly the same if you wanted to add, say, this, for instance. I want to take a little bone platform. I want to look at the weapon configuration they've got. They've just got a single cannon. It's actually a mortar. So, in reality, I don't... Actually, no, I'm okay with making things out of bone, because neither of these are actually weak to that cannon type, so it shouldn't be a problem. If I so desire, I could make my ship look rather silly, which is probably the strength of this game. I can make this giant-ass tower if I want. I don't know if it's going to let it... Yeah, that's as high as it'll let me go. You see the borders there. So if I make this giant platform on the top here, I could then try to just knock a couple of cannons on. One there, maybe put one on the edge here. Needless to say, you've got to think about angles of attack. If you end up shooting through your own ship, then you're not going to go very far, are you? No, no indeed not. Alright, we'll give this one a try. It's not ideally set up, but we'll see how it works out. I'm going to set a weak point there, hopefully to collapse that, and then... That one's actually a bone beam there, as you can see. That's going to take less damage from my cannons, so it might even be worth adding an additional machine gun. Now, you'd think you can maybe flip it around, but you can't. I guess they're just going to do that manually. There we go, put a machine gun on that side, and here we go. And then you sit back and watch what happens. And this is probably the biggest disappointment to a lot of you. It's like, wait, I can't control it? No! No, you cannot control it. I am very, very sorry. Also, it's very, very weird because your little Rigonauts, I suppose, don't actually move around when they're firing in the opposite direction, which looks rather terrible, to say the least. And down goes my ship, sadly. Even though I was able to shoot off the wheel of that one, it didn't actually destroy it. So we've got to go back to the drawing board and think about what's going to be going on. And that really is it. I mean, that's all there is to this game. And unfortunately, as a result, I've got to say, well, this is a little bit simplistic. Now, you're about to shout at me for being a hypocrite, and let me explain why. Because I just said in previous videos, oh, this is a simple concept, and a simple concept executed very well is absolutely fine. And you'll be thinking, whoa, how can you say otherwise then? How are you suddenly turning around? Well, here's the thing. This isn't actually a simple concept at all. This is the kind of concept that I would want to see fleshed out. You can think about platform games, for instance. If a platform game feels very good, if it's got really tight controls, then that's almost all you need in order to make a good platformer. However, in this case, what we've got is a building game. Yeah, you're essentially playing Robot Wars here, I suppose, and indeed there were Robot Wars games that played very similar to this, but even then you actually had some control over your robot. So, in a game like this, you're supposed to be designing something that allows you to blow up the other guys. Seems a fairly legitimate thing to do, absolutely. But I feel that I want a lot more control over that. If I'm trying to construct something which is going to be able to destroy my opponents, I want precise control. I want to be able to do an awful lot with it, and then I want to be able to control the thing once I've finished it. In this case, it's really just a case of wind up and watch. I mean, if I start moving right now, alright, I'm just going to sit here. I've designated my weak spots, but after that, well, the AI of these things is kind of brain dead. I mean, the fact that they're firing backwards there and don't even change their orientation is a little bit weird, but they're too stupid not to shoot through their own vehicle. What is going on there? I mean, look at it for a second. You got that machine gun right there that's targeting the mid-mast and is shooting through there instead of shooting in the direction of the other guy. It's like the AI is astonishingly brain-dead, and since you have no direct control over the guns, you end up in a horrible position where you just sit there cringing and saying, why is it not doing what I want it to do? That's astonishingly frustrating. Alright, I guess we're doing a little bit of an obstacle course right now, and we also have some shocks here, as you can see. These shocks, I would imagine, would allow you to go over this. Let's see what happens if I just leave it as it is. It's also one of these phone-style games whereby the game itself gives you 3 stars, or indeed 1 star, depending on what you've actually done. And I'll tell you what, it's actually contrary to what I would love to see from a game like this. I want to be able to build some crazy-ass death machine, cobbled together out of bits, and see how it performs under duress. See how the physics engine interacts with the terrain and the enemy craft. But you can't really do that, because the game limits you in terms of the numbers of pieces you use, and then has the goal to also say to you, oi, you're going to get less stars if you use too many items. It's like, what? That's surely the exact opposite to what I would want from a game like that, right? Really? You're gonna limit me like that? Why are you gonna be like that? And as I say, I'm not a big fan of that. Not at all. Alright, we also need to move that up there. Actually move the entire thing down. Get it a little bit closer to the ground. Add some shocks to it. What I'm seeing from this game is a hell of a lot of interesting ideas, but really lousy implementation. It's not that it's bad, it's just that it's got so much promise and just it does nothing with it. It's really sad, isn't it? It's got a nice art style, it's got a great concept, but all it is a series of essentially puzzle missions. There's no endless mode, there's no infinite mode where it just lets you build the biggest thing you want and make it face off against maybe creations that your friends have come up with. It's so bare bones. And it's not a simple concept either. It wants to be more than it really is. And it just doesn't have that functionality within the game to really make it any good. Alright, well, let's see if we can destroy these guys, see what's going on with that. Alright, the majority of that could be collapsed with flamethrowers, I'd imagine, so we might end up just... Hell, actually, in this case, I think we could just go for a direct target on the guy in the middle. He's got no protection, so... What weapons are they using? Flamethrowers and a machine gun. Alright, so don't want to be making things out of wood then. It's only one machine gun, so I think we'll just create the majority of our ship out of bones. There we go. You can even add extra wheels if you like, but again, you're punished for doing it. I'm already using a ton of resources here. If I add an extra wheel, what benefit does it give me? Usually not a lot, but I'd like to create this crazy machine. You know, I would like this thing to go and attack, but why? The game's just going to be less stars for coming up with something crazy. It's anti-creativity in a game which it really has only that going for it. I don't even know. I don't know what they were really thinking when they came up with that idea, honestly. It's like they came up with the concept, and then when they started building it, they realized, oh, there's a bunch of really complex things here. And if they were also aiming to release this, which they appear to be, on mobile devices, they may have had to oversimplify the damn thing. Because this has got the kind of Angry Birds style to it, whereby it's a bunch of levels and you get a number of stars and you try and be a perfectionist, blah, 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 and you see how that ends up turning out for you. And I think in a game like this, I want just a little bit more than the iOS and Android phone style of game development can really offer me. And that's all it does, really. And then you go on to the next level, and that's it. I mean, I'm not really worried about things like story or anything like that. Also, the further on in the game you get, the more stars are required to unlock, so you actually have to go and revisit old levels and do them more efficiently, which to me, I don't know about you, but I actually don't want to. This is not the kind of thing that I personally want in my game. If I want to rush through the game with the most guns possible, then great. I don't think the game should really be punishing me for that, and yet it actually is. So I don't feel that that's a very good design choice, honestly. Overall, this is not the kind of game that I would spend a lot of time with, simply because I just get too frustrated about what it could have been, and the fact that it didn't make it there. How very, very annoying that is. Alright, we need to earn a few more stars, so let's try and get through here. These guys are particularly annoying. Okay, just try and take out all of its guns. That might even be the best way of dealing with it, so... Let's in this case, you can't target... Well, actually, you can target the guns directly. It just wasn't letting me target that one. There we go. 1, 2, and 3. Let's just target the guns. And now I've got to take a couple of my guns off. Like, I don't want to take any guns off. You kidding me? Where's the fun in that? Let's have a less awesome boat with less weapons. What? Really? It seems like anti-fun, to be honest. I've got to be very careful about saying what's fun and what isn't, but I think I can give you my reason for why I don't find that fun. At the end of the day, if I want to build something, I want to build something awesome and not have the game shout at me for building something awesome. In this case, the bloody thing's just collapsed over entirely, and my ship's going to die very, very shortly, so evidently that wasn't the best idea I could have ever come up with. And it leads to a huge amount of repetition, and just a little bit too much frustration, in my opinion. It's a shame, really. I think they could have done a lot better with it. I really do. But as it stands, the game, I can't really recommend the game. Because while it has a great concept, it's just not well executed. The game's also $10, 10 euros, ugh. Or if you wish to buy from the UK, then you'll be paying £6.99. I don't know, I think when this comes out on Android, it's most likely going to be about 99 cents, and you're not really benefiting in any way from getting it on PC. It doesn't have multiplayer, it doesn't really have improved graphics or anything along those lines, so... Why? Why buy it on PC, really? If this, you know, it's for a little bit of toilet gaming, this is totally fine. It's nice and simple. All right, cool. No, nothing wrong with that. That seems fine. But for a PC game with a great concept that is sadly not executed in the way that I would like, then I find it rather hard to recommend it. Can you see where I'm coming from there? I certainly hope so. Oh well, maybe we'll have some better build and battle games coming in the future. Unfortunately, this game does not scratch my itch, I'm afraid. The price point simply isn't right for a game that is so simplistic and yet should be far more complex than it actually is. My name's Totalbiscuit, taking a look at Rigonauts. Sadly disappointing. I'll see you next time.